This is your August 2023 update with Rob on a job here, Mike's brother, Rob Mangold. And we have a lot to cover. It's been a while since I talked to you last. We're going to go over, we work closely with the NTSB. We have a recent report called the Disintegration Report from the NTSB. We work with them closely as well as the FAA. We're going to hear from Aero Vodochody, the chief design engineer, Milos Tranobrowski. We got in touch with him. We spoke with him directly on the telephone. He also gave us a written statement. And we have a mechanic here that's going to go over this disintegration report and talk to us about jet engines, because I know a lot of you submitted questions, and we'll see if we can get them answered here. Matter of fact, I believe it's Doug Keck. Doug, come on over. Doug, come on over here. Maybe I can't give you a proper introduction. Maybe you can introduce yourself about your education and experience.
Hi, Rob. I'm Doug Keck. I've been playing with airplanes since I was 13 years old. Graduated from Spartan College of Aeronautics back in '95, and now I'm an instructor at Spartan College of Aeronautics as well.
You know, that's awesome. And I spoke to you a little bit. I know you're headed up to Reno next month for the air races. Can you tell us your experience with the racing crowd in Reno?
Well, I'm involved with the Formula One class. As a matter of fact, I just found out today I'm crew chief for Team Miss USA number 40.
Awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank
I know
you.
they only want the best pilots and mechanics up there, so that's tremendous. Okay, let's go look at some jet engines now. Maybe you can explain a little bit about this jet engine, how it works.
Well, this is a pretty typical turbine. The compression section, where air is compressed, moves into the combustion section where the fuel is introduced with the compressed air, which spins the turbine section, creating a thrust. This one's missing a tail cone, but there should be another tail cone on the back here that comes together a little bit and creates more thrust.
Now, Doug, I know this is not the AI-25TL engine, but just for illustration, people refer to a hot section. Where would the hot section of this engine be? And what is the hot section? What do they mean by that?
The hot section is the hottest section of the engine itself. Very first turbine is the hottest section, but all of the turbine wheels and stators after that is the hot section.
Okay, and if we were to alter the air-fuel mixture, we increase pressure, increase fuel, what might happen to the fuel nozzles? We're talking 65 ATM to 85 ATM. This is about a 50% increase. What might happen with that excessive fuel?
Well, you don't really want raw fuel after the combustion section. If you're dumping extra fuel into the turbine, it's going to overheat the turbine blades. You could have a catastrophic failure there. The fuel nozzles themselves are going to be working too hard, could end up distorted.
So you could have an onboard fire, but would they get coked up very quickly, coated, burned up, perhaps fail, pop, 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 as a result of this extreme pressure?
Absolutely.
And with the excessive fuel, if this is the tail cone here, would you get flames out the back of the tail cone? And is that a good thing? Would that give you more power?
It definitely would not. Like I said, you do not want raw fuel past this point. After that, you will be overheating everything, and it will be a catastrophic failure quickly.
What about longevity on the engine? If somebody was racing and they wanted this exotic setting over the limit, over 65 ATM, what would one expect of the expense, the longevity on that engine? Would you make maybe 4 race heats up there in the jet class?
You might, depending on the modifications to the engine. I don't think too many jet racers are pushing the limits of their engines, though. I mean, it's too dangerous, it's too expensive.
It wouldn't be worth it, is what you're saying, essentially. Okay, now, I have to ask you, everybody saw that movie Top Gun, and they see these afterburners, and they think, oh, flames out the back, that's a good thing, go fast. But this isn't an afterburner type engine, not of the L-39 era. They didn't have it back then. So let's go look at an afterburner. Maybe you could explain to us what's happening there.
So when you're watching the movie Top Gun and you're seeing the flames coming out of the back of the engine, the turbine engine ends at the end of the hot sections right here. After that, all these nozzles are fuel nozzles that inject fuel directly into the exhaust, which further builds thrust and will give you a supersonic capable aircraft.
That's a lot of fuel nozzles. I just have to come in. I hope you guys can see it. I don't know how many there are, but there's looks like more than 30, 40 here. Amazing. All right.
The tail cone will actually, at maximum thrust on takeoff, these will be opened in a pattern. As they increase in speed and flight, they will close up and create much more thrust.
So that's the afterburner, why we see the flames, and it's an advantage to them, but not in the AI-25TL engine. That's a completely more basic type engine, I guess we'd say.
Yeah, it's you do not want flames in your exhaust with that engine.
Doug, you know your stuff. Now, we have a report from the NTSB, the German Disintegration Report, we call it, and they call out some specification. These are engineers from Germany trained at Aero Vodochody and Ivanchenko, and let's look at what they have to say. I'd love to hear your comments on that. All right, I want to take a moment, read the response here from Aero Vodochody, Milos Tranobransky, the chief designer of the L-39. I actually spoke to him twice on the telephone. I have some email correspondence with him, and I asked him about the FCU and the L-39. We talked at length. Quoting here from his email to me, Rob Mangold, based on your questions, I would like to inform you that according to TO, that's takeoff maximum allowed fuel pressure on FCU, Fuel Control Unit, the L-39 for engine AI-25TL is 65 kilogram per centimeter squared, or ATM. Anything over this limit can seriously damage the engine, means burn out turbine blades. And we just talked to our mechanic friend, Doug Keck, and Doug, would you have anything further to say about Milos Tranobransky's statement about burning out turbine fan blades?
Well, he's absolutely correct. You know, I don't know how they did it during the development of that engine. In this country, we pretty much built new engines, ran them until they had catastrophic failures. So we would know exactly what the limits were.
Thank you for that, Doug. And also, I spoke to Milos about that. He said they may have some of that data, but they're not going to release it. So we're going to look at the Disintegration Report from the Germans. We're going to go into that. Okay, Doug, I want to talk to you about this Disintegration Report, as I call it. We got this from the NTSB in the spring of 2023, and it's a German report because the people that did it, I'm sorry about the pronunciation of the names, Ren Hans Bernd, Voigt Heinz Jürgen, Triebel Willi, Werner Hens, Fischer Bernd Jürgen. These guys are all certified by MotorSick, Aero Vodochody. This was done roughly in the 2004 timeframe. So we want to talk about, they say that the fuel pressure should only be at 65 ATM per the manual. And then they say, why should they try to run the engine on such high fuel pressure, meaning 85 ATM? The whole gas tract of the engine, compressor, combustion chamber, chamber volume, turbine design, cooling, exclamation, etc., are intentionally designed and limited. If they ever did it, they will not release the files, meaning Aero Vodochody. What they definitely did was stressing the engine to find out where the limit is. If the compressor overspeeds, when and under which circumstances the engine disintegrates 114% RPM. And I believe that's what this team in Germany found, 114% RPM. So Doug, I'm just a layman here, and I say, guys take off, they run at 106, 111% RPM. let's just say it's 14% over the 100%. If I take 14% of 65 ATM, it's like 7.5, let's say, ATM higher. So that puts you at 71 ATM. Now, I heard one guy ran his at 70 ATM, but he's got a specially modified setup. I'm not going to name names, so he would never go near that number. And let's say Mike Mangold knew of this report and knew the other guy that ran at a higher FCU setting, who they never put anyone in the back seat. They never fill it full of fuel. But my question to you, Doug, is it fair to say that someone looks at this report and says 14% higher, maybe I could go 14% over the 65 ATM? What do you think about that?
I don't think without reviewing a lot more information, I would never attempt to do anything like that. When they're talking 114%, they're talking 114% RPM. So as far as turning up the atmospheres on the fuel pressure, yeah, it could be a completely different result.
I understand. Thank you for your opinion on that. It would not be safe. Now, further in the report up of the nozzle, the exhaust nozzle on this AI-25TL engine, it says back in 2004 they knew this. Mike had the accident in 2015. So this was known since 2004, this report. And in the photo, you see flames coming out the exhaust nozzle, and this is on engine startup. Is that normal in engine startup, we might see flames out the exhaust nozzle?
It would not be normal. That would be a hot start.
And we would expect the flames to dissipate if they were there for a long period of time, 20 seconds or more. That might be a problem.
That would absolutely be a problem.
And you probably might choose to not fly and bring it back for full inspection. Now, if somebody turns the FCU up to 85 ATM, and in Mike Mangold's case, eyewitnesses saw flames when he turned on the runway and he throttled up to, let's say, 106% power. Visually, flames 15 to 20 feet long out of the tail cone. That is cause for concern. And then he goes up in the air with those flames like that, but Mike couldn't see it. He was in flying the plane. He may have felt it. He may have seen it on the gauges. We don't know. Mike's not here to tell us about it. But in that scenario, because he didn't do a full run-up, and he was within the 3 days, so he did a partial run-up, which is completely legal. He didn't test over 100% power, so he would have never known the impact of an 85 ATM fuel setting. And I contend that he didn't even know about the setting, because when did they do it? So our information evidence shows that nobody could have done the FCU setting at Apple Valley Airport. They didn't have the time, they didn't have the personnel, they didn't have the expert mechanics to do the setting, and it was not documented, it was not even safety wired, and it was not flight tested. So it doesn't make any sense to us. We are certain about this. We have eyewitnesses that saw the jet parked at Apple Valley, and we know what happened to the jet while it was there. Now, in what scenario, Doug, I asked you, in what scenario would it ever benefit a race pilot or anybody to crank it up to the point, the FCU setting, to the point we have flames out the back of this engine? Would it make any sense to do it for a joyride?
No, absolutely not.
What would that do to the longevity of this engine if somebody were to leave it at that setting and do joyrides and aerobatics?
It would destroy it in short order.
And it's my understanding these engines are $200,000 to $300,000. And when I talked to Mike, he was not in this to make money. He just wanted to fly and have fun. As you know, I have testimony from mechanics or Reno in 2015. We'll say Mike just wanted to participate. He was not trying to win. So we have more information and evidence to come. We'll see if we can do a Q&A here if there's time. But Doug, is there anything else you might want to add about the disintegration report or anything that we talked about today?
No, I think you covered it pretty well.
All right, thank you very much for your time, Doug, and good luck to you and your team up at Reno. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Look, sometimes a summation is needed here to make sure you get the salient points. I didn't have time to go over Q&A, but I want to address one thing. Somebody said, what about screw number 28? Maybe it just turned all by itself. Well, the short answer is no, it couldn't. Screw number 28 has a lock nut and a lock tab on it. It's locked in. The last step is safety wire. No safety wire was found. We're going to have a mechanic answer that question. Maybe we'll get the FCU on screen and in person, and we're going to see what it takes to turn that screw. I do know it's 22 clicks. You have to click it in each spot. You turn it to full maximum power, and that's the way it was found. And then it's found there was nothing wrong with the FCU. Somebody turned it up to the maximum. You can read all about that in the NTSB report, as I mentioned in previous videos. Now, to go over the salient points of this video, it's important for you to know we have established the fact that it was foul play because nobody would do the FCU 85 ATM setting. You heard from Aero Vodochody, the chief designer of the L-39. I spoke to him directly. No, never over 65. Don't do it. You'll burn out the turbine blades. We have the German Disintegration Report that's been around since 2004. These guys are engineers. They were part of a race team at Reno, and they asked, why would you want us to set it 85? As if it's ridiculous, because they know it disintegrates at 114% throttle. So more power, more RPM with a higher setting, you're sure to end in a fireball. That's the way they addressed it. But Rob didn't stop there, neither did the investigation team. Then we went on and we talked to several mechanics, even in this interview, and they said under no circumstances would they go beyond 65 ATM. Typically it's set at 48 to 55. Nobody wants to go over 65. Well, then we did 3 years now, we did an FCU challenge. We're going on 3 years. And we give you $10,000 for a pass over at the airport. Nobody's taken up on us. We ask mechanics, do it on the ground. We'll give you $5,000 if you do it. Nobody's taken us up on that for over 3 years. I've been at Reno. I've asked people. Nobody wants to comment that they went over 65 ATM. And then I've even gone to aviation contractors myself and said, give me a proposal to test the FCU or the L-39 at 85 ATM. The first one said, no, Rob, we're not going to do it. I'm not going to risk my hangers and end up in a fireball. We're not going to do it. I asked another one and I said, why don't you do this? You know, Mike. And he said, there's no need to, Rob. Mike's already done it for us. We know what happens at 85 ATM. It's a fireball. Why would I do that? So I ask you, what more do we have to do to establish foul play? What more do you need or want? We're trying to give you as much as we can when we can. Until then, we will see you another day, another way.